a supply chain point of view. I have got some numbers here, some statistics about how big the industry is in Australia. And I believe it will be much, much bigger in India or in other parts of the world. So in Australia, construction industry contributes to 9% of the Australian GDP. So that's quite a big chunk of the economy that is reliant on construction. There are over 1 million employees in the building and construction industry in Australia, so which is quite a significant proportion of Australian population. And there are around 396,000 businesses which are in one way or the other related to building and construction sector. And the building and construction sector overall generates a revenue in excess of $437 billion. So that's a really large amount of revenue that one industry is generating. If we look at where this revenue is coming from, you will see that 69.8 or approximately 70% of the revenue is coming from the residential sector, which means houses that are built for people, including residential building construction, which is 27%, building completion services, 7.6%, structural services, 4.7%, installation and trade services, 14.1%, and site preparation and other construction services. So you can see a large proportion of this is actually going to building houses for people who live in Australia. So it's a very large sector of industry. So what are some of the challenges that the industry faces from a supply chain perspective, and how can blockchain technology and even other technologies can help to address these challenges? So one thing that I remember now is to bring this discussion that when you are talking about blockchain technology, a solution that is built using blockchain technology, it is not just using one technology, right? So typically any solution that is built comprises of multiple different technologies that are kind of fused together to make a final solution, right? So whenever people talk about, oh, I'm building a blockchain solution, don't assume that it is only a blockchain is the only technology that is used in it. There could be artificial intelligence or machine learning techniques that could be used for some part. There could be natural language processing. There could be robotic process automation. There could be sensors or Internet of Things. A lot of technologies kind of come together. And we will see later in the examples when I talk about smart contracts, how different technologies are playing a role in solving these challenges. So when I speak about these challenges, it's not that only blockchain as a technology can help it. Blockchain actually may need to work with other technologies to form a complete, practical, usable solution for the customers. Okay, so what are the challenges here? Poor prediction and forecasting is a challenge. Cash flow risk for small to medium enterprises is a challenge. And what that means is companies that are small companies, right? They do not have a lot of cash flow. So if they have given their products to a supplier or their customer upstream in the supply chain, and they are waiting for the customer to pay for their products, their money is kind of locked, right? Say, for example, I supply bricks. The builder buys the bricks, but says that they will pay in 30 days or in 60 days or 90 days. These are called trading terms. So 30, 60, 90, which means if I agree for a 90-day trading term, in fact, my money is locked for 90 days. I have given the bricks to the builder, but the builder will only pay me after 90 days because that is what we agreed. So that creates cash flow problems for small to medium-sized companies. There is high level of fragmentation. If you remember yesterday in the session 1, I showed you those building construction process from starting from step 1 or first stakeholder, which was the raw material supplier, till the end, which was the end customer, right? So that whole supply chain is quite fragmented. There are a lot of things that are happening there. And a lot of data is generated and it is not effectively used. Then there are project management related challenges. If you can imagine, if it's a large building that is being built, for example, say Burj Khalifa in Dubai, right? The tallest building so far. You can just imagine the scale of that project and the amount of project management challenges companies would have faced when delivering these projects. Then there are issues with late payments. I told you cash flow problems can even further can also further become more complex if the builders or whoever is the customer does not pay on time. If it is 90 days is agreed, but they do not pay in 90 days, they maybe pay in 100 days or 120 days. So late payment becomes a problem. Then there could be contractual disputes. So this is an example. Late payment is an example of a contractual dispute. So this is very common in such industry. There is overall rising cost of providing services, which is cutting down the margins for a lot of builders and the tradies or the subcontractors that work there. Falling profit margins because of rising cost. Low productivity, lack of accountability, lack of transparency. All these are challenges that make the supply chain very weak or very fragile or not performing at its best. There could be many other challenges as well. These are just some of the examples that I could think of and I identified, but there could be many more challenges like this. So whenever a business faces issues within the business in terms of the challenges that they are facing, or they're trying to improve their business, become more competitive and so on, they turn to technology. They want to see how technology can help them in getting better in managing their business or operating their business. So on this screen, on this slide, you can see some examples of different technologies that are used in the building and construction industry. So for example, there is artificial intelligence that is being used. Building information modeling systems are used. Sensors are used. Drones are used. 3D printing is used. Virtual reality is used. Even robots are used. So there are, one of the recent development is a bricklaying robot, where if you provide the robot with the design of the house, and if the bottom slab is done, this bricklaying robot comes and completes the building of the complete walls and so on. You only need to put in the door and window frames. Yeah, but it will start putting the bricks around it. So it is a very major technology revolution in the construction industry. And one of the biggest hurdles or a bottleneck when building houses was availability of bricklayers. So now if technology like robots come and finish the bricklaying quickly, the house will be completed much faster and in a same level of quality, because the walls are built using a robot, the quality will be consistent. and which then is very useful for other stakeholders in the construction industry, like the insurance companies. They would be confident on the quality of the house because it will be consistent across the different houses that they insure. But today, the focus is on how blockchain technology can help in the supply chain and in construction. But the reason why I have this slide here is to tell you that blockchain technology on its own is not a complete solution, right? So we need to have other technologies that work together with blockchain so that we can provide a complete solution. So when we are building a solution for a client, we are not building, we are not focusing on one piece of technology. There would be multiple technologies that we have to kind of combine together so that because we are building a solution, right? We're not building technology. We are using different technologies to solve a problem. And we cannot be very picky about which technologies we want to use, because in the end, the objective is that we want to build a solution that is useful to the client, no matter what technologies go in building the solution. So what is some of the applications of blockchain in the supply chain? Most important, or probably the first one I have in my list, is streamlining contracts. Whenever a building and construction project begins, it starts at a client, right? Like, for example, me, I want to build my house. I will sign a contract with my building company or with my builder. So that is the first contract. The builder, once he knows that, okay, this is the house, it has to be built, this is going to need 10,000 bricks. So they will sign a contract with the brick company to supply 10,000 bricks. They would sign a contract with a bricklayer to lay the bricks. They would sign a contract with the cement company to build the foundation for the house, and so on, so forth. And these contracts go all the way back to the supply chain example that I showed you yesterday, in the lecture 1. So these contracts can be streamlined. And what that means is we can use smart contracts, which is another concept in blockchain, which I will come to in a minute, is once one contract is signed between the client and the builder, all the contracts in the background can be automatically created, executed, signed, and stored using blockchain technology and smart contracts. So we, in a sense, streamlining the whole contracts process by automating all these different contract creations just by knowing that we have to build this house, which has 4 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, and living, kitchen, and so on. So everything that is required for delivering the house can be automatically generated in terms of the contracts and can be sent out to all different stakeholders in the construction supply chain. So this kind of saves the time, and blockchain is the driving force or the technology underpinning this sophisticated automation. Revolutionizing instant payments. So now let's take an example, right? I am a bricklayer. I go and lay the bricks for the house for which I am, for which I have a contract. Once I complete the laying of the bricks, I can take a photo of the bricks that all the houses are complete, or I could send a drone that goes up and takes aerial footage of the bricks being complete, all at different levels, and so on. We can then use artificial intelligence or machine learning technology to compare the footage, the aerial footage, with the floor plan of that house and match that. It says there are going to be 5 walls on this side. What does the footage say? Okay, there are 5 walls. So we match it. So here you can see the example of technology fusion, right? So we are using 2 technologies, AI and drones, to get an understanding of what's happening on site. You can also imagine there is a CCTV camera focusing on the construction site. So two technologies, drones and AI, confirm that yes, the walls are built. The site supervisor can look at from the CCTV camera to just verify that, yeah, what the drones have said is correct. And just this whole process, or even if you do not imagine the CCTV, just take the CCTV out, just use drones and AI to confirm that, okay, building is complete, and it generates an event that the bricklayer can be paid. So that logic of considering, evaluating that the job is complete and the payment should be issued, that automation can be developed using smart contracts on a blockchain. So the moment this event is completed, the machine learning algorithms or AI tells that, okay, the walls are complete. That is a automated transaction that is generated. That transaction can execute a smart contract, and the smart contract would say that, okay, the builder has completed the job, issue the payment or pay the bricklayer to complete the, because they have completed the work. So this whole process is kind of removing the manual intervention. And there is always evidence that there is a photographic evidence or video footage plus the actual work that is completed. And all that information can be stored on a blockchain, and the payment can be automated. So everyone gets paid and the contracts get executed using a smart contract mechanism. Sustainable procurement. One thing that is becoming very topical these days is how do we ensure that we as an organization are good for the environment. We are doing business, we are conducting business in an ethical and a sustainable way. And what that means is we have to, the onus is on us as organizations to prove that we are taking all possible steps to make sure that the work that we do is sustainable and is good for the environment. How do we prove that, right? So in this, again, coming back to the same example, again, coming back to the same example, when the bricklayers are laying the bricks, one of the things that can happen is wastage, right? The bricks are broken, a lot of cement is lying around and so on. But if we can ensure that very less number of bricks are damaged or wasted, or the site is clean, we can show that a lot of this thing is not going to go to landfill. Otherwise, what happens is all this rubbish that is collected on the site just goes to a landfill, and it is not very good for the environment. So there could be ways to show that the site is clean and so on. And secondly, from a procurement point of view, when you are securing or procuring products or buying products for, when you're buying products for your project, the company has to prove that they have taken all possible means to conduct the business in a very sustainable manner. Next thing that you would find gaining a lot of popularity or interest in the business world is on ESG. If you do not know what ESG means, maybe during the break time you can search about it. It stands for environmental and social governance. And in simple words, what it means is that whenever in the future business is going to be conducted, the suppliers have to prove that the way they produce or manufacture their product is environmentally friendly. Yeah, and it has positive social impact. So ESG is going to be a very key element in the future, not in the very far future. It is getting into action now, because 3 years from now, it is going to become mandatory. So companies are kind of struggling to figure out how to manage this. And blockchain is here for, I would say blockchain is there for the rescue, because blockchain can kind of capture all the business activities as they are happening and record it in an immutable ledger. So when you have to prove your ESG compliance, you will have all the information in a format that is tamper-proof and immutable. Going in the future, it is also possible. It is also very likely that when you are bidding for a project or you're putting for a tender, unless you can prove your ESG compliance, you will not be allowed to bid in a tender. So companies from the very bottom all the way to the top have to comply with ESG. Next is improve supply chain management. And I think I covered that already yesterday, showing that whole process, starting from the raw materials supplier all the way to the client or the customer, how that whole supply chain can be improved and can be streamlined. Next important thing for the construction businesses is asset lifecycle management. And what that means is, if you have a particular asset, maybe it is a, let's say, robot, for example, that lays bricks, or if it is a concrete mixing machine, or whatever equipment that you have, you need to ensure, or you need to show that this keep a complete record of all your different assets, and maybe it's service history, when it was last commissioned, and so on. All this is required for, say, legal or insurance purposes. And if this information can be provided or recorded on a blockchain in an immutable form, it makes the information even more valuable and reliable. We can also use blockchain for proving building material provenance. And what that means is, provenance means to prove where something originated from. So building material provenance is important if you are building, say, a very special house or a special building with some heritage value associated with it. Then you want to know where the materials have come from in the building and construction process. Efficient project planning and management is important. And I'll give you a very good example for this. Earlier, I mentioned about building the Burj Khalifa, right? A very massive project. If you just imagine, and I'm not a civil engineer by any means, but from the basics that I know about how building works, you start with building the foundation, right? You dig holes in the ground, you put cement, you build pillars, then you put a slab, then you build a house, and then another slab, and so on and so forth. But for a project of a scale like that, imagine how many contracts, how many insurance papers, how many quality control reports, and all that would have gone in building, when building such a, managing such a large project. If this information is consistently recorded and put on a blockchain, it becomes very easy later down the track, in case there is an unfortunate accident or anything that goes wrong, and you need the proof that we had this information and we have recorded it, and this is compliant with so-and-so regulations. It's going to make the job of the builder and the insurance company much more easier, because you have authentic, reliable information with which companies can make decisions in situations like this. Stakeholder accountability and transparency is another very important aspect. Every person, every company, or every entity is involved in a construction project, right? So everyone has some level of accountability involved for every service that they provide, for any service that they provide in the in this whole construction process. And once you start providing accountability, you know that you're capturing enough information so that in case you need to prove that this information was needed later down the track, you can easily get it. So that there is high levels of transparency as well. Efficient document management, because you're collecting all this information as it is happening. So creation of information as well as recording of the information in a tamper-proof and immutable format makes it also a very good document management system. So anytime, at any stage, you want any information or any document that was used to make any decision, you have it handy with such a system. I talked about compliance already earlier, and it is just going to make the, with blockchain, compliance is going to be easy because all the information that is required is already present on the blockchain. Okay, so I see the time we have reached is around, is it 12 o'clock now? So we have taken the time that was there for today's session, but there were a few other things that I wanted to cover today. So what I think is we can do, we can use part of the tutorial, maybe the next first half of part of the tutorial to cover smart contracts, and then we can continue with our tutorial session. So that way I can complete what I had planned for today. If not, then I would have to push it to tomorrow. So Malay, your thoughts?
Yes, sir.
So we take a break. We take a break and start in at 12 o'clock.
12. No, now it is, yeah.
2 o'clock.
2 o'clock. Yeah. Yes, sir.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes, sir.
All right. Let's do that. And
Okay,
yeah, we can do the tutorial activity as well as I'll cover a bit more of the slides that I had planned for today.
Okay, sir.
Okay.
Smart contract.
All right.
Thank you, sir.
everyone. I'll see you in 2 hours.
Okay, sir.
Thank you. Bye.